The Worst Podcast Ever can also be listened to on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. Links in the description below. Hey everybody, what is going on? And welcome back. It is episode 34, and as always, I am your host, Dan Brosman. Hey guys, what is going on? How are all of you guys? I'm doing good. I am doing good. We are in the midst of summer. Well, technically still spring, but look, when it hits the 90s where I live, that's the summer, Jack. Plain and simple. You can call it whatever you want, but it is swampy here some days, and I'm going to take that as the summer. I kind of held off on this episode a little bit because I didn't have a lot to talk about, and then all of a sudden, I put the notes together today, and man, I got a lot to talk about, and some of the stuff I actually left out. But first, guys, I want to talk to you about something here. So, have you guys been to Chili's? Do you have Chili's where you're at the restaurant? Because it's not necessarily my favorite place to go, but my son likes going there. He's kind of a picky eater, so sometimes finding a place to where he'll actually eat something can be kind of a challenge. So Chili's is kind of our go-to when we're out if we want to go out to eat. But Chili's got something different going on right now that is just blowing my mind. What do they have? Yeah, they got this.
And easy to sign
Look
up.
at this.
And it's completely
Now,
free. My little brother Presto is on
We had seen this before
all set up.
at another Chili's about a month ago. But this time, they have a robot, man. They have this robot, and today it was just seating people. Okay, but it actually seats people. It talks to you. It has a pre-recorded little spiel that it puts out, right? But the last time we were at a Chili's, we seen one, and it was actually serving people. Now, of course, there was a waitress taking your order, whatever, but it brought the food out to you, which is just crazy. And I gotta admit, I love this. I absolutely love this kind of stuff. It's like eating at Disney World. You know, this is like something Disney would do. So we were sitting there, and not tonight, but about a month ago. And the footage that you're seeing right now, for the folks that are actually watching this on YouTube, this was taken tonight. But the one a month ago, we were looking at it, and I'm like, dude, I can't believe this. And I looked at my wife and I said, you know, the only thing that would make that thing even better is if it came out with a cake and they had it sing happy birthday to people. Because you know how it is at places like that. You know, hey, it's my wife's birthday. So they all come out and they sing happy birthday. Well, son of a bitch, if not more than 15 minutes later, that thing came out with a birthday cake, went to a table, and started singing happy birthday to that person. That's it. That's it. The future is here, ladies and gentlemen. How exciting is this? Unfortunately, you know, some teenage girl's going to lose her job as hostess or whatever, but look, I love it. As long as the robots don't take over and kill us all, I'm on board. So, yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. I just love that stuff, and that they're trying this out. I know. I want to say that I seen something like this on a commercial for, I think some Home Depots have it. Home Depots are Lowe's, and they, you know, you come in and they'll help you find whatever. Now, of course, in you know, I've never seen one at any of the Home Depots or the Lowe's around here, but supposedly they're out there. Now this one at Chili's, which her name is Rita, evidently. I don't know if all their names are Rita or it was just the one here where the Chili's that we went to tonight. But there's only one. It looks like they only have one. I'm not sure how it operates, how it knows where to take you, because I noticed a girl when she went to Sita's, she put the menus on it and there's a keypad on it, and she typed in a number. So I'm guessing that's like table number, so such and such, and then that's where it goes. Somehow it knows. I didn't see any track on the floor or whatever, but I'm surprised it worked as well as it did, and that's kind of cool. Is it a gimmick? Yeah, probably. I don't see that replacing, the real deal human flesh in flesh anytime soon, but it's still cool. But all right, so anyway, that's a little off the top here before we get into the main topics here. But what are the main topics for tonight? Or today, if you're listening during the day. I record these at night. The first one we're going to go over is Thor Love and Thunder trailer drop. Now, you may be saying, well, that's kind of, about a week or two ago. Yes, but we're going to talk about it anyway. The last time I did an episode, it was right after I was seeing Doctor Strange 2. The Multiverse of Madness. It was a good movie. The next thing we're going to talk about, number 2 topic, the second main topic, is going to be game collections that are coming out on the Switch, that have already come out, on the Switch. I think they come across all the platforms. I think Microsoft has theirs for the Xbox and then the PlayStation. And we're going to talk about, the good and the bad, but just kind of like what I think of them, and just have a conversation about those, because I really think those are cool. I'm saying that I missed out on this, but maybe not. There's so much that kind of comes across your table, or on YouTube or the internet, that sometimes it just is all a blur. But there is a handheld called the Odin that came out in like January. But I seen an article in Kotaku that was talking about this handheld. So we're gonna talk about that. I'm not a handheld guy necessarily. I'm not. I have a very small collection over here. And I don't know if this thing is something I would be interested in. But I think what it's doing is interesting enough to give it a talking about. And Jedi Fallen Order came out with the trailer for its sequel called Jedi Survivor. And I want to talk about a little bit about, what that may be, and then, what kind of what made the first one work. The trailer didn't really give you a whole lot as far as what may be going on or what the game may be about, but we're going to talk about that, because as far as modern gaming, that's been my favorite game, the little bit of modern gaming that I do. And then we're going to talk about at the very end, Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi has dropped, I want to say 3 episodes. Do I like it? Do I not? If you've been listening, you know that I have a love-hate relationship with anything new in Star Wars, so we are going to talk about that. Civilly. Probably. More than likely. You'll see. So Thor Love and Thunder has dropped as far as the trailer. And I think this is like we already had a teaser trailer, and then this is the main trailer, and I don't know that it is going to have another one. Maybe. But this one kind of tells you everything that you want to know, or tells you enough. And I am a fan of Thor, and I really loved Thor Ragnarok. Now, I know from the people that I talk to that there are kind of 2 camps going on here. The people that really do love it, and the people that are kind of not necessarily all that happy with, this kind of jokey Thor that has kind of developed in Marvel. And and to that, I'm going to say this. I understand those people. I most definitely do. I am not a comic guy. I've never been a comic guy, not because I don't like them. It's just something I never got into. So when I talk about like these Marvel movies, this is coming from somebody who didn't read the comics. That being said, it also gives me, I think, like a good feeling for enjoying this more than trying to compare it to maybe what was in the comics, because there are a lot of people, like I said, there are people that didn't read the comics and are just really enjoying this. And then I think there's also kind of a camp of people that are like, yeah, not so crazy what they're doing with Thor and how, jokey and not making him a little bit more serious. And I can get that. And sometimes that kind of worries me too, because you don't want to go too overboard. But I think they're really good at keeping an even keel on him being serious and maybe the jokes part of things. And from what this movie looks like from the trailer, there's going to be some serious parts to this. So let's talk about some of the things that I noticed that I really, really are looking forward to this. First of all, I love his new look of his new armor. I know some people I've been seeing that they're like not liking it at all. I love it. I think it looks really good. And, after how many times we've seen Thor, I'm okay with seeing something a little bit different, okay? It looks fantastic. And then we have Natalie Portman as Lady Thor, and she looks amazeballs. This woman got jacked. And she's a tiny little thing, too. She's got some arms on her now. You can't be Lady Thor and not have some guns. So props to Natalie Portman for putting in the time at the gym. And it really shows. Congratulations to you on that. And man, Christian Bale as the baddie in this one. He's Gore the God Butcher. I know very little about this guy, but I know that, he comes from a civilization that, worship their gods and were very faithful to their gods. And something happened, I believe, to his wife and child, to where he feels the gods betrayed him or let him down. So now he just goes out and he's killing gods. And that's from what I've understood from other people explaining it online. But God, look, I love me some Christian Bale. And he looks fantastic. And if anyone is going to play a off-the-hinge bad guy, you're looking at probably the best guy for the job out there. Christian Bale, I give him a thumbs up on that. And it just looks to be a super fun movie. But another big actor that's in it, and I think he's going to play a very short role in it, Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe as Zeus. And if you are watching this trailer, if you've seen this trailer, it's the funniest part in the whole trailer. And this isn't spoilers. It's in the trailer where they had captured, Zeus pretty much had captured Thor. It would be Mount Olympus. And he's wearing a disguise. And Zeus flicks off his disguise. And he flicks a little bit too hard and just buck naked. Okay? And first of all, holy shit. Hemsworth is goddamn jacked. I mean, he was jacked in the other ones. But dude, that guy, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something here, folks. I'm not a guy... I shouldn't say this. Let me roll that back, because I was going to say I'm not a guy that'll just take my clothes off or anything, because in my younger years, I had a couple drinks in me. Maybe I would go streaking down the street. Those days are over. But let me tell you something. I would consider bringing those days back if I look like Thor does in this. Holy shit, dude. I can't imagine what the commitment must be to maintain a body like him. Crazy. But anyway, got a little short glimpse of Russell Crowe as Zeus. And him, Crowe don't have the body anymore. But that's okay. That's okay. He's older. He's still one of my favorite actors of all times. Not really in Les Mis, but, his singing's not that great. But, I loved him in A Beautiful Mind. I loved him in Gladiator. So I'll watch me some Russell Crowe. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It doesn't show too much. You kind of get maybe a little feel that, eventually the storyline is going to lead to them coming across, Christian Bale and, to see how much a Christian Bale is just bent on killing the gods and if they have to kill him. I don't know. I don't know what happens in the comics, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty epic. And I can't wait to see, Natalie Portman just be a badass. So count me in to Thor, Love, and Thunder. Okay. So one of the things that I've been picking up lately, and, I have some in my collection right now, and actually I have, I want to say a couple of them are on pre-order right now, are game collections that are coming out on these new systems. And it's, the retro games that have, the IPs have multiple games, and now they decided to, bring them all together in one complete package, more or less, and release them. And I love this. Anytime, anything retro is being re-released, I'm always a sucker for that. I can't help it. I just am. I'm a sucker for, getting, anything retro. And this is kind of it. And, so we're going to run through a couple of them here. I know this isn't going to probably be all of them, but these are the ones that I kind of either have ordered or have a little bit of, I already have and have a little bit of hands-on with. And the first one I want to talk about is Doom, the classic collection, and that included the first three. So you have the first two that are kind of the same. They're the old school, beginning of the first person shooters, kind of like in the realm of the look of Wolfenstein. But I think Doom came out after Wolfenstein. And then you have the third one, which the third one was a big leap forward. And I love the third one. I had it on PC originally, and then a couple years ago at the Midwest Gaming Classic, I had bought it on the 360 or the original Xbox. I don't know. I'm trying to look over there. Maybe I think it's the original Xbox. And I know some people don't like that game, but I loved it. I remember playing that in the middle of the night with my headphones on, and I get so freaked out. And I remember the one time my wife came in, and back then we just lived in a small condo, and I had our spare bedroom was the gaming room. And she snuck in and scared the absolute shit out of me because it was in one of those very tense moments. But yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't played the third game in it, but I have played the first two, and they run so good, so smooth. Because I got a lot of different ports of Doom and Doom 2 on different systems here, And brother, let me tell you something. They are not all that great. Some of them are okay, but a lot of them just do not run good. Namely, the Super Nintendo one, which kudos to them for, coming out with it on the Super Nintendo. But, at a certain point, it's like, if this is the way it's going to run, why bother? And those of you that have ever played the Super Nintendo version of it, you know what I mean here. The second one is one that I just got not too long ago, is the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, and that's really good too. It comes with, and I'm gonna read off the list here. If I leave some out, I apologize, but it comes with the original Castlevania, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, Super Castlevania 4, which is a awesome game, and it might be one of the top two Castlevania games that I like, my favorite. Castlevania Bloodlines, Kid Dracula, Castlevania Belmont Revenge, and others. I will say I haven't played all of the games. I played, maybe like 4 or 5 of them off of there. The one thing that just drove me nuts that they didn't put on there was Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the PlayStation, the original PlayStation game. I don't get it. Why is that not on there? And when I originally bought this, I'm like, oh, cool, because I'm thinking, it's gonna have it on there. I'm gonna play it. No, it doesn't. And don't get me wrong, it's still a great collection, especially if you're one of those people that don't already have the old cartridges. It's a great way to get yourself back into those games. But yeah, I really feel like that was a big missed opportunity, and I wonder why they didn't do that. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm still really happy with it. And, yeah. So the next one is, Contra's coming out. And I want to say that I'm pretty sure I pre-ordered it. I got a mountain of pre-orders like this. And, it takes they trickle in over time. And sometimes I get a package in the mail, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And it's always limited run games. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And which is always cool. I mean, come on. When you get a package in the mail and it says limited run games and you're not sure what it is, it's like, oh, whoa, what is it? Anyway, but one of them is the Contra Collection. I'm not really sure what they're calling it, and I think it's from Limited Run Games, or maybe Amazon. I don't know, but it has the original Contra arcade game, Super Contra, Contra North American version, the Japanese version, Super C, Contra 3 Alien Wars, let's see here, Operation C, Contra Hard Corps, and I think that's it. I think that's all I wrote down. So I guess that's it. So that's pretty nice. Another one here. So yeah, that's the Contra. I mean, I really don't have anything else to say about that, because that's still a pre-order. But I mean, it's great that those games are on there, or supposedly going to be on there. But the next one I want to talk about, the one that I'm really excited about, and this is definitely on pre-order through Amazon, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection. And I am really looking forward to this. Now, I've seen some people complaining about this, and I don't remember why. I mean, as soon as I see people complain about any of this stuff anymore, I just kind of tune it out, because everyone's got an opinion. And, I mean, this coming from the guy who's got a podcast with nothing but opinion. But anywho, so let's run through the games here. And I actually didn't write it down because there's so many here. You got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You got the arcade game. You got Turtles in Time, the arcade version. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES. Then the Turtles 2, which is the arcade game for the NES. Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project. That's on the NES. Turtles Tournament Fighter on the NES. I've never been a big tournament fighter in any of the systems. I don't know. I've just never been very good at it. So, Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. That's the Super Nintendo version. And then you got Turtles Tournament Fighter on the Super Nintendo. The Hyperstone Heist on the Sega Genesis. Tournament Fighters for the Sega Genesis. So, I got 3 versions of the game that I really don't care about. The Fall of the Foot Clan on the Game Boy. I do have that cartridge. That's a good game. Back from the Sewers. That's on the Game Boy. That's Turtles 2. I've never played that. Turtles 3 Radical Rescue on the Game Boy. So, it says it includes 13 games across a variety of genres. And it says the one thing typing them together is the group of heroes in a half shell who star in all of them. Okay, well, I don't know what that means. Okay, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this as well. I love a lot of these games, including Turtles 2 for the NES. It is good. Okay, it's good. So to the people out there, I don't understand these people. They give that game so much grief. that version of the game. It's a good game. It's a good port. Give me a break. So I kind of, rushed through, all that a little bit, but I just want to talk about like these collections overall. And while I do really like these, and part of that's just a collector in me, because it's like, oh, cool, I can buy the same games that I have on like 4 other things. Now I can, buy it again. I just love that. I love that they're still coming out with these things. It kind of, to me, is a little bit more of a preservation. And there's nothing wrong with this, because I love how this reintroduces a lot of people that maybe gamed back then, but, kind of got rid of all their old stuff and have never gone back. But now you can go back because you have these collections coming out. Here's the other side of this. While I do enjoy the fact that these collections are coming out, it is all emulation for the most part. Well, I think it's all emulation. And, with emulation, come the normal problems that are associated with that, namely lag. And yes, there is lag on every single one of these things, and in varying degrees. Now, I will say, out of the ones that I do have, okay, any lag that I've seen has been very minimum. Okay, very minimal. So where does that put these things at? Well, I will say this: if you are somebody like maybe me, or that's even more into retro gaming than I am, that play these games, on their original hardware and with original, cartridges or whatever, you're probably going to notice it more than, you are going to notice it probably more than this, maybe somebody who hasn't played those games in a very long time are now getting introduced, or somebody that has never played those games and is buying them and playing them for the first time. You will notice, if you are somebody like me who plays these games in their original version. Most of the time you will notice. Now, I will say, like in those first 2 Doom games, I didn't notice it. But that being said, I am not playing the Doom on the PC and, the DOS version. I'm playing the crappy ports on the original hardware. So these have nowhere but to go up. And the graphics are very, very good on all of these games. They're polished up. They look very well. Most of them allow you to play them in their 4:3 aspect ratio or their original aspect ratio. And you have, a lot of them have settings to where you can adjust how different, maybe scan lines or different filters on these, which is very cool. So I would say that if you're a collector, yeah, you're going to buy these things. But if you are somebody who still plays these games originally and you're looking to have kind of the same experience, you're not going to. But if you are somebody who doesn't play these games on the original hardware, cartridges, this is perfect for you guys. Now, I know I just kind of contradicted myself saying, pretty much the kind of person that I am, gamer I am, I shouldn't buy it. And what am I going to do? I'm going to buy these things. I'm going to buy them. Of course I'm going to buy them. I'm a collector. I can't help it. It's an itch I have to scratch, and these things are pretty cool. And who gives a shit? Because, let's face it, I don't play these games any worse, these collections, than I do the original stuff, because I suck at playing games. So, all right. Well, that's all I had to say about that. But, definitely check them out. I think most of these are still available, at least in either getting them right now or a pre-order. So, I think the Contra one's on pre-order. I know that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one is. I love the fact that they called it Cowabunga Collection. I mean, that's so cool. But it's just a title. But, it doesn't take too much to get this dude excited. Anyway. So, I don't really keep track of a lot of things that are going on out there anymore. I mean more than your average Joe, and as far as software that's software or hardware that's in development. There's just so much going on, and life gets busy, and then a lot of times I'll see something, and then I'll be like, "Oh, right, cool," and then I'll totally forget about it, and then I'll see it later and be like, "That kind of looks familiar." But maybe I'm thinking of something else. And the Odin is, I think, one of these things that I've heard about before. And this, yet again, was a article off of Kotaku talking about this. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, this is another thing that's going to come out. Well, come to find out that this thing has already come out. At least the pre-orders have been fulfilled, it looks like. And what the Odin Pro is, it's a handheld game emulator that supposedly plays PS2 games, GameCube, Dreamcast, N64. I want to say it plays like PSP, and of course it plays, all the kind of lower end stuff as far as hardware goes, like, Genesis, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and that kind of stuff. I didn't get a full list of whatever, because the thing that really makes me interested is the higher stuff, the PS2 and the GameCube and the Dreamcast and the N64. And the N64 is kind of interesting because I just got into trying out a little bit of N64 emulation, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. And that's actually going to be a video that I'm going to work on at some point. But anyway, so I guess this thing was crowdfunded through Indiegogo. And this Mamma Jamma made $3.6 million on Indiegogo. So to say that it was successful, a successful campaign is putting it lightly. And there's 3 versions. There's the light version. The light version that goes for about $200, and that has a little bit lower specs than the other two. There's a base version for $239 and a pro version for $289. And there's also a second pro version for $328. And the only difference between the 2 pro versions are pretty much the storage on each one. I think the most you can get is like 256. So that would be the 328. Okay, so what are the differences here? Well, the lighter, I think the processor is a little bit less than the other two. The only difference between the base and the pro are, I want to say, battery capacity, and I want to say RAM. I think like the base is like 4 gigabytes and the pro is 8. Okay, so let me just say right here, I could have gone over the full specs of all these and not understood any of what the hell I was saying. So that's going to be pretty much where I leave the specs as far as these things. You can look it up online. There's actually, when I read the article and then I went online to see, because this thing actually came out, released in January of this year. So it looks like the pre-orders have been met, or at least the original pre-orders. You can buy these things still, it looks like. If you go to AYN Technologies, that's the company that is making this, and that's out of China, which kind of made me a little bit like, it's a lot of money for trusting something coming out of China. Because, when I think of stuff like this coming out of China, I think of stuff like on AliExpress, But you go there, and if you want to buy it, it kind of takes you to their Indiegogo page, and then it looks like you gotta buy it through them. So it's kind of confusing a little bit. But I tried to see. I was gonna leave a link in the description, of this video on YouTube, but there's several links that keep taking you to different places. But it seems like it takes you to its Indiegogo page, and you buy it from there. Anyway, so everything that I watched online of people going through this thing seems to be like it's pretty awesome. And and what makes this interesting is the fact that, the Steam Deck or whatever that was, that new handheld that just came out that plays Steam games, pretty much PC games on a handheld. I mean, everybody's just started getting those, and not necessarily something that I'm interested in, especially being that like those could go up to like $500-$600 or something like that, which is like, nah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a handheld guy, so not all that interested. But what makes this interesting is all the retro games you can play on here. Okay. So there's that. And then there's a side of me that's going, this is emulation. And with emulation, like we just talked about, it's how good is it? Because especially with N64, I mean, everybody's always, every year, that's always the talk. It's like, well, where's N64 at with its emulation? I know Pat Contry is writing a book for the N64, and him to play a lot of the games, had to get an emulator for that, and it's hit or miss with how good that is. And that's just the architecture of the Nintendo 64. It just makes it very hard to emulate. But then, again, there's others that handle it very well. The Dreamcast, I don't emulate the Dreamcast now I think about it. I actually play ROMs through the actual hardware. But, the Dreamcast has had reliable emulation for a while. And the GameCube, too. PS2, and that's where, this does kind of falter a little bit, because everybody says, there is a lot of good in this, but, there is a lot also to be said that's not working. And, PS2 games were mentioned, there are, the frame rate seems to be pretty good, but there's a lot of glitchiness in some of the games. And, I'm didn't read or see too much about the N64, but look, unless they came out with some magic out of their buttholes in China, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say buttholes, but, out of somewhere, that the emulation on the 64 probably isn't solid more than maybe 60%. I don't know where I pulled that out. Well, I pulled it out from the little bit that I've seen so far. And, so I will say, though, the price of this, especially at the $200 level for the Lite, it does make it very, very, accessible for a lot of people. Even at the price of $328 for, the updated specs on the Pro, the upping the storage in it. I mean, especially seeing how much the Steam Deck costs. Now, you're not able to play AAA games on this like you are the Steam Deck. But here's the thing. Is it the Steam Deck? Am I calling it the right thing? Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about. Here's the thing with the Steam Deck. When people say, yeah, but the Steam Deck plays AAA games. Okay. But it's a PC. You're PC gaming. How long is that going to be possible? And then what? And then where are you left? Because, that's why I got out of PC gaming. So how long are you going to be able to play the new AAA games? I don't know. But with this, you're kind of going back in time, and you're playing, you know what you have. Especially with that many that many different systems you're going to play for, that is just absolutely awesome. But it's all emulation. So, I don't know. I mean, I think this is going to be one of those, like with a lot of emulation machines. And I've had, over the last, I'd say about 4 years, I've had quite a bit of, experience with different kinds of machines that emulate and different emulators and stuff like that. And some are really good and some are not so much. And then sometimes it just depends on the system. Because some of those systems, like the N64, like I said, it's really hard to emulate those games because of the way the architecture and the hardware, in the architecture of the hardware is. It's just hard. It's not anybody's fault as far as, the people trying to emulate them. It's just, it's going to take a while, if ever. And the only thing that I know that's actually been super solid with anything as far as emulation is something that I have no experience with, and that's the Mister. But that's not software emulation like all of this is. That's hardware emulation. And as we all know, FPGA is the way to go when you want to emulate. So is this worth it? Well, I don't know. I would say it is very, very interesting. And if you're a handheld person, I would go for this. Like if I was a handheld person, yes, absolutely I would go for this. Because chances are you have the games, the backup games, because if, they're not backups, if there's something else, that's piracy, people. And but I would be all over this. I don't know. You probably want to go with the update one. I get the one with the most storage. Now I don't know if you can add storage yourself or it's all just like soldered to the board. I don't know how that works on here, but and two, this thing looks a lot like the Steam Deck, and it looks like if the Steam Deck and a Switch had a love child, bam, you get the Odin. So, something interesting to take a look at. Like I said, if you go to AYN Technologies website, it is there. Good luck with getting to the part where you order. It didn't take me that long, but I wasn't really sure if that's where I had to be. Because like I said, it takes you back to the Indiegogo page. And so anyway, and these prices are pretty spot on. I wrote down the prices according to what the article said, but it looked like it was because now you're going to go on there and it's going to say for a really high price, but then underneath it's going to say in US dollars, which is what you're going to pay. So don't freak out when you see, what, this thing's $1,200? No, it's not $1,200. You got to look underneath to where the price is for the United States in US currency. So there's that. So another thing for you to throw your money away in. Well, not throw your money, but, just buy and not tell the wife, I am not really into modern gaming too much right now, which is kind of a shame, but, I'm so busy anyway. It probably is a good thing. But one of the things I have gotten into over the last year when I got my Xbox One X, always got to make sure I say that right, was Jedi Fallen Order. And that's the first game I bought. And I love that game. I've already played through it, I don't know, like 3 times. It's a great game. It really is. And now we already know that the sequel was coming, that they were working on it, because they announced it, I want to say earlier this year or sometime last year. But I know at some point, they made an announcement, whoever makes this, I don't know who the developer is, but whoever it is, they said, hey, we're going to do another one. And everyone's like, well, duh, because the first one was great. And it's called Jedi Survivor. Okay. And in the trailer, I mean, the trailer looks awesome. And I don't really understand what's going on there. It looks like him, like, what's the main guy's name? Damn it, I just blanked out on that. But it looks like the main character from the last game is in it. He's the main character again, same guy, and it looks like just being hunted and other Jedis being hunted. I don't really know what the end game to it is, but I mean, from the cutscenes that we've all seen, it looks so good, and I am so excited. I am hoping that it comes out in the Xbox One X. Otherwise, I might have to buy a new system. I know I said I wasn't going to, but if this game comes out and I can't get my hands on it, that ain't happening, people. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, you know, I may be making out my Christmas list a little bit early this year. Although, I believe it's not coming out until next year, so 2023. But with that being said, and us not knowing too much about what that new game is going to be about, I wanted to kind of go over what made that first game so great. And because there is a method to the madness there. You just don't make a game on a whim and just hope it's good. You know, they're putting something together here that is going to help that be good. Okay. So what made this so good? And this is in no particular order. So I got 4 things here. First off, the storyline. I really enjoyed the storyline. But I will say, out of the 4, it's probably the least of my favorite things. Now, I will say the storyline wasn't all that necessarily deep. But, I mean, basically, you were trying to get the holocron with all the names of, you know, the younglings that could be Jedi or whatever. And then at the end, you know, spoilers here, the game's been out for a while. You know, at the end, you end up, you know, hacking that thing to bits, and it's over with. Because you got to be careful, because you don't want the Empire to get to the children. Because if they find out that these children could be the next generation of Jedis, of course they're going to go and they're going to kill these kids. They're the Empire. They're evil. Okay? Evil. Okay, number 2 is the character interaction and variety, which I loved this game. Even the baddies, like the Inquisitors, were very interesting. The main Inquisitor, which I can't remember her name. I don't remember any of their names right now. I should have probably written these names down, but I didn't. But I love the characters. I love the captain of the ship. I love the main character. I love the people that he runs into, you know, and the banter back and forth. And what's really great about that is when you have characters that you make a connection with, that makes the game so much better. Because you can have, you know, characters on there that will interact with you, but, you know, they're just kind of generic responses or whatever. But you interweave the storyline, and you interweave a little bit of heart with, you know, hey, maybe winning one of those characters over as the storyline progresses to where they now feel like family. And that's what they did with this. They really did. They made it feel dark and hopeless for the Jedi, but they had this little niche of people that became family for you. And it was really nice, because now I'm really interested in, hey, you know, what happened to these people? Are they still okay? Are we still together? You know, are we still, you know, friends and hanging out together? And it's going to be really interesting in the sequel to see what happened. Trailer kind of shows that maybe everything went to hell in a handbag, and that would be great. Because I'm sorry, the best part of a play, of a movie or whatever, is when everything goes to shit. And that is why the best Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. Because you ended the first one on such a high note, right? And then you go right into the second one where everything goes to shit in Empire Strikes Back. It goes to shit for the Rebellion, for Luke, for Han and Leia, and that is great because it just gives you that swing of emotion, and it looks like this is what's going to happen in this one. So I'm kind of hoping that if that happens, that they're going to make a third one, because you got to bring us back up. Now you got to climb back up. You got to fight your way back up, back to doing what you got to do to get past the Empire. So anyway, what am I saying? I don't know. A third thing that I really loved about the first one was the progression of skill set as the game and storyline unfolded. And this is probably the biggest one, because when you have something like a game like this now that's so cinematic, with what's going on in a universe that's so big, you want your character, you want to feel like you're on that journey. You don't want to feel like you're playing this character. You want to feel like you are this character. But if you are still have the same kind of power level or skill set at the end that you did at the beginning, then it doesn't feel like you went on a journey. And here you did. And a lot of Star Wars games do very well with this, namely if you are a Jedi. Because you learn over time, better powers, how to be more powerful. And that's something that's really awesome, because at a certain point in the original one, your lightsaber gets broken and you go into the cavern, that ice place, that ice cavern, to get a new kyber crystal and repair it. And then you come out with that new lightsaber and with those new skills. Look, if you played the first one, you know what I'm talking about. When you got out of that cave, you felt like a damn badass, because you're like, hey man, I got myself a new lightsaber. I got myself some new skills. Time to kick some ass. And that is what I am talking about. It is such a great thing when it feels like, the game rejuvenates itself. I mean, that was like, what, halfway through? As long as it keeps progressing and you keep getting better and better, it's almost kind of like a reward as you play the game. Well, if you get this far, then you get the more experience or whatever, and, you pick up these other powers. I mean, that's how it was in Knights of the Old Republic. Now, that's kind of a different thing because it's more of an RPG, so you're going to level up because of experience points or whatever, but it's still kind of the same thing if you really think about it. This is more of an action game, that's an RPG, but you're doing the same thing. And RPGs are really big on that, where as you go along in the story, well, in with RPGs, it's almost a must that you level up, that you get more powerful before you can get past certain parts. And in this thing, it's kind of interwoven. As you go along, it's gonna, bump you up in what you can and can't do. And now on the controller, you just got to learn what buttons to press when, and then, boom, you're doing all the new moves. But that is one of the biggest things that I thought that this game did very well, and I'm hoping that that's what happens going forward in the sequel here. And the fourth one, and the last but not least, is the settings in which the game takes place. The planets, the cities, what have you. And that's always one of those things where I just feel the Star Wars the most. Because you can have things like stormtroopers there or blah blah blah, but if it doesn't feel like it's like a Star Wars world, then what the hell? But they did it so well and so beautiful. I mean, everywhere that you went was just breathtaking, I thought. And another good thing, we're on Tatooine. Star Wars, people at Star Wars, I am over Tatooine like crazy. And I think a lot of Star Wars fans are too. So kudos for you to not taking us back to Tatooine. And that's it. That's it for that game. And I know, I was bringing up the sequel at the beginning, but there's not too much to talk about now because it was just a little bit of a hype video to get everyone excited. And hey, we're working on this. We got some stuff done, and it's going to come out next year. So let's hopefully it does come out next year. And hopefully I can still play it on the Xbox One X, and I don't have to buy a new system, because wouldn't that be a shame? So anyway, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney Plus dropped. We're up to 3 episodes now. We had 2 episodes the first night, and then this past Wednesday, because the new episodes drop on Wednesday, we had another one. And first of all, guys, I'm going to tell you spoilers. There's going to be spoilers here. I'd like to tell you that I'm just going to give you a general idea of what I liked about this, but I want to talk spoilers here. So if you don't want to hear, if you haven't watched this yet, watch the Kenobi, and you're going to, this is where you duck out. This is the last thing we're probably going to talk about, I think. Well, maybe not. Anyway, so Obi-Wan Kenobi. General impression. I really like it. For the most part. So, I think, I don't even know where to start on this thing. I think let's talk about what I do like. I like the way they portray Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, they could have had him just being the same, Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but, living on Tatooine and watching over Luke, but just basically hanging out in a cave. Well, they didn't do that here. They gave Obi-Wan a little bit of PTSD here, which is very interesting and just great because, it's very, very much realistic as far as, hey, this guy watched the downfall of the Republic, and he kind of played a big part in it, training the guy who became Darth Vader, who turned and pretty much obliterated the Jedi, and in return, pretty much took out the Republic. And, he doesn't even have a house yet. He's just living in this cave on Tatooine and working at like a butcher sweatshop, it almost looks like, where it looks like they're butchering a crate dragon that had died in the desert, of course on Tatooine. We're back on Tatooine. But what I will say is great is the fact that how Ewan McGregor portrays him is so good. And, look, I know there's a lot of things you could say bad about the prequels, but Ewan McGregor, his Obi-Wan is not one of them. At least in my opinion. I loved it. I thought he did a really good job, and he does a really good job here too. Showing that, where he is right now. You get to see Luke, him looking over Luke. And Uncle Owen, great job by that actor. Can't remember his name. I got to start writing things down a little bit better here. Anyway, and, I love the fact that the Inquisitors are in here. Now, granted, the main Inquisitor who is after Kenobi, she's, not the strongest character right now. I don't hate her, but I'm like kind of bland and one-dimensional. And, with that, I know there has been, unfortunately, a little bit of controversy with, what's going on with this actress as far as people pretty much direct messaging her with death I can't talk today. Death threats and racist comments, and which is, I mean, I don't get why you would do that. It's Star Wars, but just like anything here, it's always the jerks that talk the loudest most of the time. So that being said, and by the way, I am saying fuck those people because, you are pieces of shit. If you are one of them that did it, you're a piece of shit. So unfortunately, I did want to bring that up here because it's just wrong. it's a show. It's not that big of a deal. And most of it, first of all, whether or not she's good or not, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. Second of all, it could be the way she's written, it could be the way she's directed, or both. So give me a break, guys. But I do feel like she's going to come into her own a little bit more as the show progresses. And it's only supposed to be 6 episodes, so we're already halfway through. There might be more. We'll get to that in the end. But that being said, so now you have, basically the gist of this was that Princess Leia gets kidnapped. Now she's, 10? I think 10 in this. Which, I don't know. She might be a little bit younger than that. Anyway, yeah. It's been 10 years. So anyway, so Bale Organa contacts Obi-Wan Kenobi to go find her, to go get her and bring her back. But she was kidnapped to get Obi-Wan to come out by one of the Inquisitors. And of course, he's reluctant, but then he's talked into going and getting her. And, as soon as he comes out, he's pretty much, found out right away. And, it's only been 3 episodes, but it's moving along pretty fast. But I will say, this whole 6-episode thing that Disney is doing, it's like you're sitting there the whole time going, okay, that was a pretty good episode. But then at a certain point, you're like, I don't know how they're going to wrap all this up with, in just 6 episodes. But, it is what it is. So the little girl, by the way, who is playing, this actress who is playing Leia Organa, is absolutely delightful. This girl is so cute, and she is spot on awesome. So kudos to that little actress. Way to go. And in this last episode, there was a great moment between her and Ben Kenobi when they had a conversation. And they're in a truck, and they're traveling to a spaceport. And she says to him, "You knew my mother, didn't you?" And Obi-Wan just kind of brushes it off and is like, well, that was just a story. And she's like, "Are you my father?" And he says to her, I wish I was. And she talks about how sometimes if she tries really hard, she thinks that she can, see them or whatever. And then Ben talks about how he knows how that is when he was taken away from his family at a young age to become a Jedi, and how he remembers his mother's shaw and his father's hands, and that he remembers a baby and thinks that he has a brother. And it was a side of Obi-Wan Kenobi we've never seen, and quite frankly, not a scene that we'd ever seen like that in Star Wars. And it was just like a minute of dialogue, but it was so powerful and so engrossing. It was my favorite part of all 3 of these episodes so far. Just, it just breaks your heart how this little girl, would love to know who her mother was, would love to know who her father was. But, Obi-Wan Kenobi can't tell her that because it would endanger her. And, what is he going to tell her? Your mother died because your father force choked her and then he became Darth Vader. Not necessarily a great story to tell a 10-year-old. I mean, and I kind of just thought of that. I'm like, yeah, I probably don't want to tell a 10-year-old that, your father killed your mother, right? That sounds like a Dateline episode. But, of course, eventually we come to the part where Lord Vader and Obi-Wan have a lightsaber duel. And it's not necessarily the duel, the fighting that made it great. It was the fact of the circumstances. Obi-Wan Kenobi has been in this desert. He had his lightsaber buried in the middle of the desert. He hadn't really, even lit that thing up in probably 10 years. Hasn't been training, was 10 years older, living kind of a hard life out in the desert. And it showed in his fight against Vader. And even Vader said, the years have made you weak. Yeah, and Vader had just gotten stronger. And it just showed that Vader was so much more capable than Obi-Wan was, in their fight. But how much the banter between them. When Obi-Wan first sees him and says, "What have you become?" And Vader says to Obi-Wan, he's like, "What you made me." And that is so true. And in a way, not true. But it was very powerful because it is their first coming together since everything that happened. And we find out fairly quickly that Obi-Wan didn't think that Anakin had survived. He didn't know. I mean, he's out in the middle of the desert in Tatooine. He thought Anakin had died, but here he was alive. So now he's just finding that out, and he's finding it out that Vader is Anakin Skywalker, and this is what he had become. And it's really tragic. And if for me, it hits home a little bit more because I watched all the Clone Wars. So if you watch the animated series, that relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan cultivated over many seasons of that animated series, which was just fantastic. So when it actually came to the point to where they met in this show, it's like, God. I'm like, you guys were so close and you went through so much, and that's how it ended. With you on fire and turning to the dark side. I mean, it is a tragedy. Star Wars is very much a tragedy if you look at it that way. It's just a tragedy. And one of the best scenes in this last episode was Vader force choking Obi-Wan in the air and then setting the ground on fire with his lightsaber and dragging Obi-Wan through it, setting him on fire, kind of like what happened in The Revenge of the Sith, what happened to him. And he said, "Now your pain has just begun." And I got to tell you, it put goosebumps on my arms. And by the way, James Earl Jones doing the voice, oh my God, so good, so good. Now I heard something that it was computerized, that it wasn't James Earl Jones. No, Jack, that was James Earl Jones. So freaking good, and just a voice acting, it just felt like how he voice acted the character in Empire Strikes Back. Now, of course, Obi-Wan gets away with the help of a rebel. And Leia, well, it looks like she got captured again. So we're going to have to wait. And that's where it kind of left us off in the last episode. I'm not going to say I absolutely love this, but I'm really, really enjoying it. So why am I saying I'm not loving it? Well, it's for the same reason that I'm starting to get the feelings with a lot of the other stuff in Star Wars. Is you have, Phantom Menace here on the timeline, and then you have now, I don't know, what was the last one? The Rise of Skywalker, whatever. You have this whole timeline here, but they're keeping everything in this timeline here. So everything's getting crammed in here and there. This is one of those shows that I don't necessarily know that people were clamoring to be made, that needed to be made. Now, people wanted this more, I think, than the Solo one, because the Solo one I don't really care for anyway. I don't hate it, but it was, every time I see that movie, I'm like, and we needed to do this, why? at some point, I would like to go outside of here. And I know they're working on other things that are going to go, but we need to do that now. Okay? When we get done with all these other things like Ahsoka Tano or Ahsoka, whatever that show's going to be, which I'm really looking forward to. And what is it? I don't know. There's like 2 other things. I can't keep track because some of them have been canceled and some of these other shows are still in the works. But we need to get out of here. We need to get out of that whole, Skywalker saga timeline here. Okay? Because there's a lot of shit that happened before. Go 3,000 years into the past and let's do that. I know we're supposed to be doing something with the High Republic. Let's get there. Because as much as I enjoy, these shows like Kenobi and The Mandalorian and not so much Boba Fett, I'm done. And for the love of God, look, listen. Disney, if you are watching this, if you are listening to this, please, for the love of God, stop going to Tatooine. Stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. I'm tired of seeing sand in my Star Wars. I'm done. And I get that, because we've been stuck in this narrow timeline now, that we keep having to go back there because a lot of what happened revolved around that planet. But we are done with that. Stop going back there. Because if I see another Star Wars show that's like, oh, well, we got to go back to Tatooine, I'm going to be like, God damn it. No more Tatooine, guys. No more Tatooine. All right? So, guys, I like it. I wouldn't say I love it, but it is definitely worth a watch. They're doing a really good job on this. Guys, go ahead and check it out. I am a big fan of Star Wars. Not so much the new stuff, but this new stuff, yeah, totally good. So let's go through it. The show's on there, Boba Fett. Watch it, but I wasn't a fan for the most part. Mandalorian, definitely got to watch that. Kenobi, you're definitely going to have to watch that. So, if, for a batting average there, I guess they're not doing too bad. So, anyway, guys, watch Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right, guys. Well, I think that's where we're going to leave it. Right there. I got a couple other things that, I kind of seen after I wrote up the notes, but this is already like an hour, 12 minutes. So, I've been putting you guys through this for long enough. This is where, I probably lost everybody at 20 seconds. So I just been talking out into the ether of nothingness. But yeah, there's a couple other things that we could go on over, but I'll just leave that to next time. It wouldn't be the first time that I don't have a scoop or a jump on something current here. Obviously, but all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for sticking around if you stuck around to the end. And until next time, good night and goodbye.